for Likkle Byte Ideas, where we discuss how Likkle ideas are transformed into big dreams. On the toolkit, and you will access a lot of resources. A lot of the information that we presented here today, there are a lot of activity sheets, so we encourage you to download some of that information. Also, there's a digital swag bag with Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. It's Wednesday, and we're stopping in for a special edition of Likkle Byte Ideas. It's been a minute. We miss you guys, but we know it's the summer. We have some obligations that we're taking care of, and I know you have things that you're probably delving into. And so it's great that we can just do a little pop in and spend some time reminding ourselves about the importance of financial education and financial literacy. So, of course, you know, I don't do this show alone. Let me get my co-host in here, Megan Samuel Fields.
Hello, hello, hello. It's been a while.
It's been a while. It's been too long. But we're happy that we can do this. Wherever you are, we hope you're staying cool. Most of the world is on fire from everything I can see. And so we want to spend some time just talking about the YOLO Conference, YOLO Summit, which will be on September 22nd and 23rd. And so we have to start talking about it, start mobilizing, getting everyone in, on track with us. But we have a very special guest that we want to introduce you to today. If you've been to our events, he's no stranger to our virtual stage. We have Brian Dialect Kushner, our Crucian friend.
Hey, Dialect.
Hey, Dialect, how you feeling?
Peace.
Great.
Good to see you.
On stage. Hey.
You are on stage. You are. You're live and in living color.
I'm not seeing y'all.
We can see you.
If you all hearing me, give me 1 second. Let me try redoing some my online thing.
Yeah, we can hear you very well. Oh, did we lose Dialect?
We lost him, but
okay, I think he'll come back in.
He'll be back, but we have lots to talk about.
Oh yeah, let's get this ball rolling. So for everyone, I hope you're getting our newsletter. If you're not on our mailing list, we encourage you to send us an email at info@samuelfieldsconsulting.com. We'd love to have you on our mailing list so we can keep you updated. We have lots of tips, lots of information for you, for your family. We'd love if you share. So please take the opportunity to send us a note so we can add you to our mailing list. Also, we'd really appreciate if you would like us on Facebook, like us on Instagram, and also go to our YouTube page. We do this every week, and we've been doing this for almost 2 years. So we have a lot of content. We have over 100, almost 200 videos.
A lot of work.
It's unbelievable. So lots of information. Sometimes when you work and you don't think about it, it just piles up. So Dialect is back.
Yes. I'm here. Excuse me for the technical difficulties, but we are right.
All right. Good to have you, Dialect.
Yeah. So everyone, this is Dialect. He is. Let me do the proper thing and read his bio. Most of you have either heard of Dialect if you've attended any of our functions. Essentially, Dialect is. I'm trying to pull up his bio. I made sure I had a little description. Bear with me. Just give me one moment. Okay, he is a U.S.-based award-winning finance educator. He is a hip-hop MC, host, journalist, poet, musician, and advocate. He was born and raised on the island of St. Croix, and he is one of the founders of Pockets Change. They'll be our co-sponsor of the YOLO Summit, and we're going to talk about the YOLO Summit today. So Pockets Change is a not-for-profit organization that helps the youth develop a better understanding and relationship with money. And at the YOLO Summit 2003, which we said earlier, is going to be on September 22nd and 23rd, live and in person, no more virtual. Dialect will use music and entertainment as learning tools to teach valuable financial lessons that will include entertaining tips for navigating the world of credit, debit management, taxes, insurance, and much more, all the financial concepts. He's also known for his lighthearted approach to discussing financial milestones, life events, and planning for the future. So, Dialect, we are delighted to have you on the stage, and we are going to have a very interesting discussion today.
Thank you. That's a great intro. Thanks, appreciate y'all giving me all the flowers. We need to get those. That means a lot.
Fantastic. So listen, guys, today is, we're always celebrating. We always look for an excuse to celebrate here at SFCG. There's always something to celebrate. And so today is New Conversations Day. Apparently, it's a big movement about conversations New York. There's a conversation week, I think, in November, and another conversation event in New York in May. I didn't realize that, I think since COVID, people recognize the need for us to communicate, be in contact with each other, talk things through. And of course, if you were a part of our last conference, it was talk, learn, and commit. So we're big on financial conversations, and all of us as island people know that is something that there's a big void of in the Caribbean. We just don't have those financial conversations. So today, we need to do it every day, but today we really want to focus on keeping it real. How do we really keep those conversations going, keep the discussions going, keep the knowledge going, so that especially the next generation, they can form better financial habits than we did.
Yes, so, I dig that.
Yep. So, Dialect, let's get started with you. Tell us a bit about you. Give us some background. Not everyone knows Dialect. Dialect, I have to tell you, you're a celebrity before you even get here. There are people who know your name. They get excited. Megan and I were doing a show yesterday, and the host, I don't think he had heard about you, but the write-up that we sent him, he was like, this Dialect, and he was trying to spell it. And
really, I think he went and looked you up. He
looked you. Yeah, he Googled you and everything. So yeah, your reputation goes before you. So when you get here, we want everyone to know who Dialect is, and of course, we want them to know that it's something that they cannot afford to miss. So tell us a bit about Dialect growing up in St. Croix. You ended up on this path. And then we'll get into some of the topics and the strategies that we will be deploying during the YOLO Summit. And just before you start, Dialect, for those of you who may be wondering what the YOLO Summit is, YOLO stands for Youth, Opportunities, Lessons, and Outcomes. I misspelled it yesterday, right, Egan?
I know. I was like, you're doing a Yule.
I went back to listen. And I was like, oh, my God.
Yes, you did Yule.
I did L last. I did Yule. That was funny. So, do we have a slide that we can show? There's a slide. Let's just show everyone.
Ooh.
We like to have fun. It is New Conversations Day. Okay.
Slides.
And if you notice, the YOLO.
Yes, YOLO. The youth ought to look out.
The youth ought to look out. I love it.
I like it.
I'm writing that down. The youth ought to look out.
I mean, I know I got plenty from, one thing that we're going to learn is you ought to live ostentatiously.
Yes, I remember that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, I said that the last show. Yeah,
yes, you did say that in the last. Yep.
I think that's my that's my vibe.
I love it. So guys, you see, we're in for a lot of lyrics.
Yeah.
And we love lyrics in Antigua and Barbuda. It's all about the lyrics. We speak musically.
Yeah, and well, that's the whole thing of all of this. You're asking me a little bit about my origin story, and it's funny because it relates very heavily to numbers, words, and finance, but in ways that I never really expected.
I wanted to be and Dialect, not to cut you off. Please. And we have a way. Our grandparents they deliberately speak backwards or speak in opposites. So if they move tall, they'll say short.
Mm-hmm.
You
I
know,
know about
and that was all a part of the humor and the learning.
Mm-hmm.
But continue.
Yeah. Tick one, you say, "Oh, watch your mouth. I got a boy over there. I know what you're talking about." Yeah. So yeah, I was in St. Croix. And by the way, I wasn't born in St. Croix, but I moved there when I was a child, when I was like tween-ish, and I was in St. Croix. I wanted to sing. My mom has an amazing singing voice. She sounds like Minnie Riperton. She didn't want to
Oh,
get into the
wow.
music industry because she thinks that it's, evil and people trying to do too much wild, and she still thinks that I'm wild for even trying to get up in that world. But I didn't have the pipes like her. I don't have the tone, the perfect pitch, all of that stuff, but I love music. And me and my friends would sit in the back of the big calypso band on the island at the time was Violators, Bio International. Their calypso band would be up jamming, and me and my partner then would chill in the back of the party, and we would freestyle. We would rap at each other. It's a rhythmic thing where I didn't have to worry about maintaining my pitch. And something I learned about myself, I don't believe in like talent or someone's a musician, someone's not a musician. We all have these things within us and they can be pulled out. And I thought that I could be somebody's singer, and I realized I was a vocalist. It wasn't the tones, it was the rhythm that was an important thing to me. And growing up with calypso music in particular, it gave me a different sense of rhythm than a lot of people who are rapping or doing poetry, because there's the speed and the tempo, right? Calypso, and calypso always it gave voice to the political or personal nature of the stuff that I wanted to talk about. In extempos, calypsonians would always talk about important issues. In fact, there was the band that I was talking about on my island. They had these songs that were important issues to the youth in the community, and these were things that were able to be carried through in a rhythm in ways that if we spoke about it plainly, I mean, just to be real, they had a song about killing all the white people on the island and making them have to leave, right? And the white kids on the island jammed to it.
Was that Kill the Rabbit?
Kill the Rabbit. Yep, Kill the Rabbit.
Yes, my people. You know what I'm talking about. That was the tune, right?
And
the white kids on the island.
I don't think I knew what it meant. Did you know the white people knew that?
Not then.
This is the first I'm hearing about it. I thought it was a Bugs Bunny or something. Kill the Rabbit.
No.
But that's how you bring the art in. You make these things softer. Looney Tunes had the kind of violence where if that was a flesh and blood movie, you would be rated X. You would never be able to watch that, right? We soften things with art so that people are able to see the actual point we made. These men said kill the rabbit because they were vexed about the ways that white people came to the island and took over and made resources more difficult for other people. And in the music, like I said, white kids would jam to it even when they knew what the song meant. And it was something where we were able to communicate our frustration and also be able to communicate our needs within the same point. And this was using the rhythm. Y'all know from education history, the African drum was taken away from enslaved Africans because they knew that was our method of communication. That was our method of education. That was the way that we plant and we share. And one of the pieces of that, one of the roots of that is in the way that we share music now. When we do these things, we are sharing our values. We're sharing the tempos. The tempos that we're sharing usually are our own heartbeats. We have fast calypso because our hearts are racing because we are trying to do something that is difficult. It's why we slow down for the Lovers Rock tunes, right? Because we're trying to get in sync in that way. We make these connections and we make these understandings that transcend just having fun. When we talk about entertainment, I'm not even sure if I'm comfortable with the word entertainment, because people have this idea that entertainment means, oh, I'm just going to lie back and have fun and I'm not going to grow or learn. But that never happens. You always grow or learn in some direction. Even if it's, the slackest type of art will take you in a way. It may not take you the place that you want to go, but it will take you some kind of where. And rapping took me, my senior year of high school is when I started rhyming with my friends in the calypso spot, right? And he took me, I did my rap for a friend of mine. He found a rap group on the island. It was all the rappers who would come and kick rhymes around this busted fountain. And I kid you not, I went from being good, solid in math to having a perfect score on my math SAT.
Oh, wow.
Because when I understood my own personal rhythm, and this is something that I share with students and teachers in lots of ways, equations made more sense to me. I could fit them into my life, and I could fit them into my patience. I had patience for them. The game slowed down. Art always makes the game slow down. Athletes like to say this phrase. It's like if you've ever played a sport, right? The first time you play, everything seems so fast. Oh, they're passing the ball. Oh, the ball's getting hit. Oh, this, that, right? And then when you start getting good at it, everything feels like it's in slow motion. And that's what I was able to do in the math space. My people who are musicians who work with rhythm now, y'all know that, because when you hear a good rhythm, doesn't matter how fast or how slow, you become a part of it and you exist within that world. And watch, what I'm saying sounds like hippy dippy, oh, our feelings about stuff. And I know that it's often difficult for people to be like, oh yeah, I know, y'all just having fun. These are just good feeling. And I cannot, as a musician, as an educator, as a father, I cannot express to you how much joy creates a love of learning, and how with rhythm, with understanding our rhythm, with sharing that personal rhythm with the rhythm of the room, how we can take our joy, explain it, and make it possible for other people, and we can have joy together. That's even before I got involved in finance, was just understanding that piece as a musician. And I became an educator because I came up here to the States after that and for college, and was like, why am I researching and learning everything about music, about the hip hop stuff, all the art, the graffiti on the walls, everything that I could learn about these creatives who were changing the world, and I didn't care about class? What was wrong? And I started applying the principles of what I do as a creative to what can be done in the classroom. And we managed to slow the game down for lots of kids. I started off with the VI Council for the Arts grant, where they would give me grants to come down and do programs with students. We did our first financial thing that we did before I knew I would be a finance educator, is we had this thing, a freestyle rap and poetry debate, where we used rhyme and poetry to do traditional Lincoln Douglas debate. And I was working with the YRC, the Youth Rehabilitation, the kids who are locked up, and with the group home, with the kids who didn't have families to stay with. And y'all know, especially in the island, social services are not very strong. You know, we're technically a territory, so we should get states benefits, but we don't get benefits like a state. So there's not a lot going on with those kids. And, I was, fortunate to be able to come and jam with them and share this. And one of the beautiful things, I love our kids and the ways that they don't give up in the face of everything. Like I say, the joy. The resolution that year is there are no more heroes in the world. And when I brought this to my boys in the YRC, they said, that's not true. We want to take the negative, because Barack Obama is our hero. And that was really poignant to me, considering that, we're technically the United States, but we don't get to vote for president. So that was something to me, that these boys did not have access to this president, but he was still this symbol of heroism for them. And I was able to get them to come and do their thing, and it was beautiful. They learned how to rap, they learned how to write poetry, they learned how to research, they learned how to make a solid argument. And at the end of it, I said, I tricked you. I didn't just teach you how to go and perform and handle curveballs when someone throws you some weird thing on stage, some idea that you need to do a rebuttal. I just taught you how to research, prepare, and handle yourself in a job interview. And we put away the mics, and we picked up the suits, and we talked about how we look someone in the eye when we're debating them, about how when we're freestyling, we're listening more than we're talking. And yes, we do have a weakness, but we need to speak about it in a way that will show who we are and how we grow. And through that, I got to learn about how important it was for me to teach students not just about understanding their own rhythm, not just how to learn, not just their literacy and those fundamentals, but also the fundamentals of the finances, because they're not able to do any of these things if they don't have access to funds. And if they don't have access to know what happens. You were talking about passing things on and generational wealth as we began today. And the first thing I was thinking of, stats come to my head, was 70% of families lose all of their wealth within one generation, and 90% of families lose it within 2 generations.
Wow.
Right? Those are scary stats.
We've had shows like that where we brought some of the generational, the very few families who still have a generational business. We're talking, the ones we've talked to, maybe they go to the second, possibly eking out to the third. But you're absolutely right. When we were growing up, there are a lot more family businesses. Most of them are gone. You know, they did not find a way to transfer the wealth to the next generation. But dialect, I
Yeah.
want to segue a bit because I like what you're saying. What it says to me is there's so many different learning styles,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that we should be using to make sure that kids learn. I'm happy to see that in Antigua and Barbuda, we're talking about no child left behind. And I was having this discussion with someone just yesterday. That's all well and good.
Mm-hmm.
I believe no child should be left behind, but you
But
also
yeah.
have to ensure that you have programs in place that
Yes.
caters to the different learning styles of
Exactly.
different students.
Exactly.
Because if you don't, children will get left
You'll
behind.
be left
That's the
behind.
standard approach. It's not a one size fits all. And so if you, it sounds good that you're going to try to bring all children along and make sure that no one gets left behind, but you have to, that has to be demonstrated and manifested in looking at some alternative pathways to provide
Mm-hmm.
the education that children need.
Yes,
So
you got to meet them where they're at, right?
absolutely. And
music is one of the places that you can definitely
Mm-hmm.
meet them because most young people love music.
Like I said, you will find with young, well, I mean, with all of us young at heart
Right.
folks too,
Exactly.
it is in all of us in some way. And people be like, oh, I don't know, I can't sing. But, you know, they get up on their feet and they could dance. They could rock to something. They could play an instrument. They have some kind of connection to
it's a
the arts and
universal
rhythm and music.
language.
Yeah, it speaks to them in a way that is important. And when you find something that's important, it's the thing I can't emphasize enough. When you find something that's important that matters to you, you'll rearrange your whole life. And that's something that I don't understand how school administrators will not give room to. And that's actually one of the best parts about doing multiple ways of learning for people is you get to show them different methods of delivery and wait for that one to click with them. And then when it becomes important to them, whew, they'll make the world spin around that thing that they're
Yep,
doing.
it's like a blind person being able to see for the first time or a deaf person being able to hear for the first time. You know,
I mean,
that kind of engagement.
think about Stevie. People have there's a young people conspiracy theory that Stevie Wonder been able to see this whole time because they watch him on stage and he looks like a musician. He looks like he's watching people, and they just, you know, if you haven't actually been there live and you can't comprehend that the brother is blind, but is in here with all of us. So yeah,
Yep.
I feel that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Dialect, we want to talk a bit about the Money Jam. I'm so
Yeah.
excited about the Money Jam. And for those of you who are wondering what that is, this is not a jam at Lions. It's going to be music, yes, but it's going to be a contest. So we're actually going to be starting a casting call. We want to encourage professional, amateurs, everyone to put their thoughts. Everyone has learned financial lessons. If you need to do some research to augment some of the learnings that you have as it relates to finance, we encourage you to do that. But we are going to be doing an event. One of the highlights of the YOLO Summit will be the Money Jam, where we're actually going to take to the stage and have hopefully some great contestants. We're actually working with some young performers who are going to perform professionally. But we want to discover some talent in Antigua and get some of the young people on stage, whether they're rapping, calypso, whatever beat they choose. But we want to get some of these thoughts and some of these mantras transferred to music or compose some kind of composition to music that can further enhance learning on the national level. So tell us about the FinFest that you've been doing for several years, Dialect, because we're going to be benchmarking against that event that has national acclaim, and to get our children in Antigua and Barbuda excited about making music and putting their thoughts to a rhythm.
Yeah, well, it's the thing that you're saying. It's your thoughts to a rhythm. We want to hear from you. This stuff don't change unless we change it. Like we were talking about the Kill the Rabbit song that we remember from 20 years ago, you know, and how poignant that song was and what it did and how it meant things to us.
Yeah.
You know, when it comes to personal finance, art has been complicit in keeping us in a cage. in a metaphorical sense, and oftentimes in literal senses as well. I talk a lot about how in the States the Civil War that happened was because of Harriet Beecher Stowe's book, Uncle Tom's Cabin. And this piece of art changed the country, right? But then, I don't know if y'all even know about this, the white people, they started putting on these shows, they called Tom shows, that misrepresented the book. When you read a book and then you watch the movie and the movie ain't got nothing to do with the book?
Most of the times, yeah.
Right. Well, these guys were the best at it because they took this powerful story of enslaved people fighting for freedom together and made them look so silly and corny that most Black Americans today have never read that book. And the term Uncle Tom is a slur for a Black person selling art. People don't like to think of that as art because it's ugly, but that is ugly art that has been able to change how we feel about beautiful, liberating things. And I share the ugly of it because I want people to know how it's effective no matter your intention. So when you take your positive intention, the way that you want to change the world in a real way, and put it to a piece of art, if you are specific and honest and vulnerable about what you're trying to say. I want to bring back again to this Vio song. It was very vulnerable for these men to say, my frustrations are so large that I want to hurt the people who live here who have more economic power than me. That was brave and vulnerable and could have been dangerous for them. We are asking our students to be brave, to be vulnerable, to say things that are dangerous to the status quo so that we can change things that we see for the better. Because that's what art is, right? Or can be. It can be a reaction to the failures of the world and an envisioning of a more beautiful, more symmetrical, more perfect world that these people can create. I'm using a lot of big jargony kind of terms to just say, young people, I want you. I want the things that you're vexed about. I want the things that you're joyful about. I want the things that matter to you to come out of your mouth in regards to how you live your life and how you make sure it's affordable for you. I say that in that order because we have this idea, the money on the mind kind of thing, where it's like money is an end goal. And we all know that money is a tool that brings us to the end goal. And when we understand that we have better control over money, it's so funny. When we stop focusing on money that way is when we're able to get it in a way that works for us. This, my wife will always talk about when we focus on debt, that's why we stay in the debt cycle. We're just paying attention to debt, and then the debt is our best friend. And that's what we live in, right? We can do more. In fact, about that art in the song, I made a song, Debt Rules Everything Around Me, with a researcher where we took 5 white papers about debt and racism and the way that, in particular, Black women are treated terribly by systems of debt, charged more, paid less, all these types of things. And we're able to make work that has been shown in different venues, that people have made educational curricula about, and it has grown and had a life of its own. Young folks, when you come and jam and tell us what matters to you, we will be able to shape what the important lesson is, help you articulate that lesson so you can really jam with your peoples, and so you don't have to worry about pulling your community up because they will be riding with you. You will be pulling yourself up and we will be pulling ourselves up together, and not by no bootstraps, because that ain't no real thing. Have I told you the bootstrap story?
No, you haven't. What's a bootstrap story?
So a lot of times people say, you want to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, right? And that's how you're going to succeed. The etymology, I'm a big word nerd about this. I did a whole album where I did, research of the etymology of words. And the etymology of the term, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, comes from this guy, Baron von Munchausen. He was an Indiana Jones type of character in books, swashbuckling, fun guy going through misadventures. And it was supposed to be a comedy. And one adventure, he fell into quicksand and pulled himself out of quicksand by his hat. It's a funny gag, right? In a funny story about some adventure. And they used to use that term, pull yourself up by your hat, and then eventually became pull yourself up by your bootstraps. It was originally used as a term to explain trying to do something impossible.
Right.
But again, art. People decided to be creative with the phrase. And they started nudging and change it. And yet to this point, it's got a completely different meaning. So again, I always love to share about the ways that art transforms our lives and the way that we could take control of that. We get this rhythm, we control this rhythm, we control the room. People say, like, you read the room. When you read the room, you're reading the rhythm of the room. You are feeling it out. And when your teacher comes in or that speaker comes in and they got your attention, it's because the rhythm of their speech caught you. And that's what got you to listen to the words, just like your favorite song.
That's amazing.
As he was
you have
As you were speaking about rhythm, I remember when we were younger, um, one of our brothers had a way of remembering some Spanish words, and it really was the rhythm.
Hmm.
You remember?
That's right. Not
It was
only that,
the
the chemistry periodic table.
chemistry periodic table. That's all
To
Yes.
this day, I know it because
Yes,
he made up a rhythm
a
and
rhythm.
some rhymes that you had to learn the first 20
Yes, 20
chemistry
elements.
the first elements. Yes, I taught that to my children. I'm like,
Yes,
Mom, how do
yes.
you remember that?
It's
You
the
know,
rhythm.
but you're right.
Yeah, it's the rhythm.
Yeah.
So it's
And
really
he's a pretty smart guy. I don't know if he ever got into the songwriting, but he
not
really
that
gave us
one.
some tools.
I love it. That's
But
beautiful.
let's take a break for some questions.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Violet, when we come back, we'd love to hear from you in terms of some tips that the young folks can begin to those who are interested. They can begin to. They have the whole summer. We challenge some of our
Hmm.
youth to begin to get their songs together. We're going to have some great prizes. You're going to hear more about this. So jump on board early and begin to get your compositions together. So Megan, let's see if there are any questions. When we come back, we'll talk a bit more about the money jam and get some tips from dialect.
Yeah, man.
Okay. So we don't have any questions, but we have some comments.
Mm.
So Manelva Samuel says, "Good afternoon." Good afternoon, Manelva. It's been a
Peace, peace.
while. Lenore Scala, she is saying, "I'm here watching and learning." Also,
Great.
thanks.
Oh,
That's
thank
what it's
you.
all
Thank you.
about. Lots to learn. And June Jackson says, "Good afternoon." Hi, June. So if you have any questions, pop them in the chat so we can discuss them with dialect. That's all we have for now.
Okay,
Questions,
great. So,
jams,
Dialect, tell
challenges. Yeah,
us,
yeah, yeah.
how do people get started? I mean, I've always been fascinated with songwriting. I don't have those talents. Give me a press release to write, but in turn, I may come up with a logo or something or
Give me a spreadsheet. I'm good.
what's that?
Give me a spreadsheet. I'm good.
There you go.
We all gotta
Well,
find our instrument, right? That's
yes, we
the
all
thing.
have our
That's the
instruments.
thing of
We
it. What
all
is
have
the
our
instrument?
instruments.
You
I'll
know,
write the story about the or the profile for the performer, but I don't know that lyrics are my thing.
I
I stay
calculate
in
the
my lane.
profits.
I love it. It's funny how nonfiction writers and fiction writers are very different writers. And again, it's a rhythm thing. I always think about what's the old Plato thing? He got it from the Egyptians, but the old Plato thing about how the sculptor sees a block of stone and they don't see a block of stone, they see the sculpture within. Right. Mm-hmm. And that's not me when I see a block of stone, right? I just see some stone. I don't see it when I look at a piece of paper, and I don't see it when I look at a spreadsheet. But when I hear a rhythm, when I hear a drum, I hear words, I hear ideas, and I feel emotions. Wow. And what I ask the students, or I invite y'all to do, is try out some sounds and some vibes. I usually write songs one of two ways. I have some words, some idea that came to me that I want to talk about, and then I want to find the music that connects to the statement I want to make. Or I hear some music and it gives me the idea. You hear a word out of the drum and you're like, oh, fire. Fire. Oh, I didn't know why I said fire, but now let me think about it. So now I'm thinking about, oh yeah, we're heating up, and the next thing you know, you got this whole vibe about, oh, fire, bon ami, and like it's really talking about like your burning passion to learn how to sew, because your grandma used to sew and she passed away when you were young and you never learned. And you could use that all through the metaphor of fire, and it can be a burning passion to sew. You can take yourself from one end to the next in a really easy way. For folks who are planning to, this contest, we're talking about money. And if you have a money thing that you want to talk about, or you're not sure what to talk about, I want to know what's bothering you. What's wrong? What do you see in the systems, in your community, in your life that you would like to change? If you're like, my family has been in debt for several generations because of lots of reasons, I want to talk about that and how people get caught up in debt. That's cool. If you want to talk about how, hey, it's important to me to retain this tradition from my family, and I know that I'm going to need to afford to do that, If we have a business, you talk about family businesses, right? I want to hear about y'all family businesses that y'all want to continue and y'all want to see going on. Because yeah, we often do lose those because the younger generation has their own dream and doesn't know how to connect your dream to theirs. I want to hear all of these things from you. I want to hear what you think is going right. I want to hear what you think is a good thing in terms of money for your family, for your community. What are those businesses that are opening? What are the ways that people are doing susus and making sure that they take care of each other? Hey, I would love to hear a song about how someone did a susu and they were able to pay for that car they wanted. Give us these real stories of your life. Give us the tragedy, give us the positivity, give us the vulnerability. If you make it real, when people say to be real, they mean to be vulnerable. And a psychological thing that I've learned is we love people who are vulnerable. And when I say we, I mean people as society. They've done psychological studies that people who are comedians and people who are singers receive greater amounts of love from their fans than dramatic actors and comedians, especially comedians who make themselves vulnerable. They, your handsome, square-jawed, dramatic actor doesn't receive the same kind of love because people don't connect to them that way. These arts will make people connect to you, feel you on a visceral level, and understand you. If you've ever felt misunderstood, share that part of you that makes you feel misunderstood, and you will find thousands of people ready to rise up and say, yeah, me too. We can't do that with simple statements, but art we can.
I like that. So what's bothering you? What do you see in your community that you want?
Yeah, what do you want to improve?
I like that. Yeah.
What's the lesson, that you've learned over the years based on changed behaviors and just taking risks and that type of thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Nice. But dialect, for the folks we have listening, and of course this contest, we are looking at folks between 15 to 35. That's our focus. If you don't fall within that bandwidth, we're not going to exclude you. We want everyone to learn from this.
Everybody
process.
Come jam.
Everyone come and jam. But for folks who have some questions, how do they reach you? How do they?
Oh yes.
How can you give them some guidance? Are you willing to share an email, or how can people get started? Because I know there are people who may need some guidance and have some thoughts and want to reach out to you.
Please reach out to me. I know some people are social media DMers, so feel free to reach me on Instagram at dialect, spelled the way that I've got on the screen, DYALEKT. If you want to email me, it's dialect, as you see on the screen, at pocketschange.com. You can hit me up either of those places. I'd be happy to rap with you. I would love to hear first drafts of what you have going on, so you can help clear up and articulate. I love to edit with you, help create any of those types of things. If you're like, oh, I don't even know if this is the right genre, this is a reggae tune, but maybe I should make it a soca. What am I doing here? Please.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome.
Happy to rock.
I might have to reach out to you because I'm gonna put some lyrics together.
You gonna get up with me too? You gonna rock? Okay, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I need to do some little something.
Wait, Dorit, what was the thing you said before? Professional amateurs. I'm looking. Watch. When I come to the island, I'm looking to start a band called Professional Amateurs.
There you go.
We'll put it together.
There you go. So, the other thing I wanted to talk about too is you always make reference to your money story, and of course, you touched on it a bit by telling people what's bothering you and what have you. But I'm always intrigued when you talk about, and you've really turned me on to thinking more about why we make some of the financial choices that we make. A lot of it is rooted in the way that we were raised, what we saw our parents do. And I think for a lot of middle class, low income to middle class, struggling Caribbean people, when our parents talked about money, it was always based on scarcity.
Oh yeah.
It was never in the context of I can make more money. It was more, we don't have money, so only one slice of bread. Don't have money, so turn the lights out because we don't want to run up the electricity bill. So it wasn't, there was never any, and I think in African American culture, there's probably more of that where people have more hopes and dreams because they can see, the opportunities are a little more abundant. So you can at least know more people around you who have pulled themselves out of poverty. And so the narrative might be a little different. Some people may not agree with me, but that's how I see it. But I think our parents, they tend to be a little conservative, and it was always about how do we conserve the little that we have,
Yeah.
as opposed to how can we multiply, use our, they're big on education, they're big on advancement, but I don't think they ever made the connection clear to us that we want you to get educated because the 2 cents we have today, we expect you to multiply it into millions. I mean, that's what I say to my kids.
Yeah.
We didn't have the opportunities that you guys have.
Yep.
So I'm giving you the 2 cents and the education and the tools. You go and multiply it because this is your world. I don't know that our parents gave us that kind of narrative.
They couldn't. If you think
they couldn't. You're right. They couldn't because they couldn't relate to it. They were doing what they knew best. You're absolutely right.
Absolutely. Because if you go back one generation, most of them didn't have education.
Exactly. So even to have an education for them was advancement. You're right.
That was
absolutely right.
Yeah. But the conversations.
Yeah, and they too didn't know what to do with the education, so they couldn't impart it to us. They just knew that somewhere, somehow, it's important. Get the education as a stepping stone, and that was their accomplishment, not recognizing that within that education are the tools and the wherewithal to multiply it. Let's talk a bit about that.
Well, first of all, I love the two of y'all going back and forth like an old school rap crew. Y'all are amazing together. Vibes in, beautiful things. But yeah, this is why we love to talk about the generational wealth thing and generations and our feelings, because one really big important thing, mom, dad, grandpa, aunties, uncles, thank you and for what you did, and we forgive you for the ways in which you were not able to do what we needed because you were unprepared and you were given so many obstacles. Exactly. Our parents would often be tough on us because they knew that the world would be tougher. And I understand that perspective. That is a difficult place. I've got plenty of friends who they tell me, I came to the States and my mom was from Dominican Republic or from Dominica or something like that. And they're like, yeah, all of this creative stuff you talk about, we had that in our hearts, but we could never vocalize it because we didn't have that as an option.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, it's really hard for our folks. And I want us to understand that because I don't want us to be like, oh, this is why we should disrespect our parents and say we need to be different and all of that. Our parents were doing difficult and important work, and they were taught that if they were vulnerable, that you would lose things because they were taught that vulnerability is weakness. And it was true in many cases, but in other ways it did keep us from things. We talk about economic liberation. I'm mixed. My father is white, he's a Jewish dude, and my mom didn't want me to eat watermelon in front of the white folks who were in my family. This tool of economic liberation for Black Americans. After slavery, Black Americans used to sell the watermelon, and they made art.
This story. It's a great story.
I told you the story before, right? And
but I love it. Tell it again.
Well, this whole thing, yeah, right. I guess I can't get too sick of this one because it's a really important story. Watermelon is the tool of Black economic liberation for Black Americans after the Civil War, and Black Americans were free-ish. They were using the watermelon seed because it came from Africa. They knew about it. It would grow in adverse conditions. They were able to make money selling it at market, and they made minstrel shows and political cartoons and all of these things to make us ashamed of it. They used metaphors. That's what I say about, how art, the metaphor of like how using two hands to hold a watermelon means that Black people are too lazy to use a hand to work. It's not even a good thing. It's terrible, but they laundered it through to where my mother is telling me not to eat watermelon in front of those white folks. And, I love my mom and I forgive her for that because that's not, it's not that she did a bad thing to me there. We're all learning. We're all taking and unpacking and making things anew. When your mother, I say anybody who got a Black mother, when your mother telling you, and this happened in several countries and I know very much in the States, to dress nice and be dressed nicely when you go out, it's because they used to kidnap Black kids. The police would come and pick you up off of the street if you weren't dressed professionally, if you didn't look like you were going to a job, throw you in jail, and then you're in debtor's prison, sharecropping to pay somebody else. It's a big old mess, right? So they got real adamant and hardcore. Don't you go outside, because they wanted to make sure that you were safe. And generations later, we have that within our tradition and culture now, because the thing kept us safe. It kept us alive. Everybody in finance talks about like the habits that help you thrive versus the habits that help you survive. We have been in survival mode for generations, and we
Yes.
have to honor and thank our parents and grandparents and ancestors for holding us down so that we could survive. And the way that we pay them back is we live good lives. We want to do more.
No, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Another area we want to
Oh, yeah.
talk about dialect, and we haven't had a chance to discuss this with you. We're looking for some youth finance ambassadors,
Mhm.
young people in Antigua and Barbuda who are influencers or people who just want to be a part of the movement. We don't have a set number, but we know
Mhm.
that people learn from their peers. If I told my children about this summit, I'm the wrong messenger. If
Of
mom is
course, yeah.
telling me to go, it's not cool. So we
Mhm.
want to really recruit some young finance ambassadors who are passionate about learning, who are passionate about making money. They're motivated. They want to learn more about finance. They recognize they've made that connection that they want to improve their financial literacy. And so we're also going to be putting out a casting call for youth finance ambassadors. And next week, we're actually going to have an in-person sort of mixer with our someone who's been doing a lot of work with us, H. Wright. He's a local promoter. He's like our nephew, but he's well known. He's a hustler, has that energy, does his little music, and he actually owns a bar. So we are actually inviting young people to come out. It's in Fitchers Creek. It's called the Wright Room, WRIGHT.
Mm.
So for those of you who know Humroy, we invite you to come to the mixer where we're going to be talking about youth and finance, and we're actually looking to recruit some youth finance ambassadors to be the voice, to be the face of this movement, so that we can get the young people working on their money songs. They can come to the YOLO Summit and really learn and meet dialect, meet a lot of influencers who can really help steer them on a path of success and better financial decisions. So,
I
Dialect,
love
if
it.
you're available next week to join us just for a minute.
Yes, yes. I would love to come and jam with your peoples. Influencers get a bad rap. And, the influencers get the same rap that rappers and chanters used to get back in the day. The same bad rap that the jazz musicians used to get back in the day, because you're doing something that everyone doesn't exactly understand.
Yes.
And yeah, there are a lot of influencers who, like we're talking about art that leads to harmful stuff, that lead us to harmful things. And it's a money thing. But the thing it is, I don't feel like it's greed. I think way less people are greedy than we think, and the stats do bear that out. It's that like I said earlier, we are desperate. We want to be able to jump to the next station, so people will be an influencer for things that aren't necessarily for them because they're told that's a path. So I would love to see these influencers and help them find the path that actually does the thing they want, as well as making them money.
Nice.
Great. So for those of you who are listening, you may know some young people, your children, grandchildren, godchildren, cousins, neighbors, and friends. We really want to get the young people involved. We hope that people like H. Wright and a few others who are known, promoters and have a movement that they have some influence on. We want to get everyone involved. H. Wright is, he's been on our show. He has done some work with us, and he keeps saying to us he wished he had more financial guidance and knowledge when he was much younger.
Mhm.
And I know he reaches out to Megan from time to time for support in his business and getting his contracts together.
That's my nephew.
Yeah.
I
So
love it.
I think he's a great face for this.
Yes.
Someone who came from humble beginnings and will tell you how hard he had to work to pull his bootstraps up. So I think he'll be perfect. So for everyone, spread the word. We'd love to have some young people come out to H. Wright's bar in Fitchers Creek. Of course, if they can't make it in person, we'd love if people call us to say that they're coming. The bar is only but so large. So we can't accommodate 200 people, even though we'd love to. But for folks who are coming, reach out to Megan 4640841, and
Or send an email.
or send us an email
Info
at
at
samuelfieldsconsulting.com.
Yep.
Let us know you're coming, you're interested. You're going to learn a lot. We're going to have some great financial conversations. We're going to plant the seed and really put things in motion as far as the money jam. It's going to be a lot of fun. Also, Dialect and Megan will be on ABS television next Tuesday, talking more about the
YOLO Summit
and the summit. So we encourage you to tune in. You'll hear more specifics about that next week. And let's see what else we have to talk about. Megan, anything else I'm forgetting?
I think that's it for now. Just to encourage you not only to come out next week, but also make preparations for September 22nd and 23rd. So start to spread the word around, because we want to have lots and lots of young people.
And it's free. It's free.
Oh, it's free.
And we're still looking for sponsors. If you're connected like that,
yes,
this is going to be a labor of love. But we have a few sponsors in the funnel, but we're still taking. We know that it's Carnival and everyone is focused on Carnival, but I know during Carnival a lot of the creativity will be at a heightened level. So we want to make sure we capture that creativity. And right after Carnival, when kids are back in school, is when we're going to have this summit. So we want the kids to really be in creativity mode.
Yeah, and be in Carnival mode. We was talking before this a few times. Is I'm looking for what we do this year to end up being next year's Road March anthem.
Woo! All right. So financial road march.
Right? Come on now.
Love it. Love it.
We gotta have a money tramp.
Hey.
Yep. So do we have any questions? I know we usually have a few questions.
Yeah, no questions, but there are a few more comments.
We answered everybody's questions.
We did.
That's what it was.
So Pam Campbell says, good afternoon. Interesting stuff. I love it. Thank you so much, Pam.
Oh, thank you.
Eileen Francis. I hope this is my Eileen Francis. She says, this program is wonderful.
Oh, we do have a question.
Yeah, we do have a question. Will the event on the 23rd of September be streamed? No,
yes, it will be. It will be live streamed. Absolutely. Maybe not the entire show, but the Money Jam for sure will be live streamed. Yes. So just to talk about these sessions that we're having, it's going to be 2 days. We are still finalizing it, but we want to not only speak to students, we want to speak to educators. We want the educators, the teachers, and others to have the knowledge so that they can help, solidify the learning process. And so there's going to be a session for educators. We're going to meet with students. We are going to meet with hopefully some performers. So we want to touch all bases so that this can be a very exciting and all-inclusive experience. The idea is we want to, even for the employers, we hope that some of the employers would send some of their younger staff members. I keep saying Antigua and Barbuda, we're a service-oriented society. 75-80% of our GDP is driven by tourism. And it's a very seasonal business. And of course, that's my background. And I talk to a lot of hoteliers. During COVID, a lot of their staff suffered, terribly with the peaks and valleys. But typically, especially the younger hospitality workers, it's a feast to famine kind of mentality. They make a killing in the high season. They live well, they spend, travel, eat well, party. And then come April, May, the season closes and things kind of peter off. They go trying to find a part-time job, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we're just saying, they are, if you're in a seasonal job or you have a seasonal business, we'd love to help you formulate better tools so that you can kind of even out your demand, even out your living style. The feast to famine thing is only going to frustrate you.
Woo!
So I think, I want to tap into the hospitality industry, but even beyond that, for people like H. Wright, he has his big event, Sobo, right? And then I think he has maybe other smaller events. It's the seasonality that we want to. Of course, Christmas is Christmas. Everyone eats a little more and does a little more and indulges a bit more around the holidays. That's natural. We're saying with good financial tools, with better financial literacy, you don't have to be, you know,
Surprised.
the couch.
Hand to mouth.
Exactly.
You don't
Come
gotta be
September.
surprised by December. You know you got 6 nieces. You know they all want Christmas presents.
Exactly.
You know the expectations. So why are we surprised when it comes? And the same thing with seasonal working. I mean, whether it's tourism, whether it's being a business owner, whether it's being a
Landscaping.
creative, everyone has their seasonal type
Exactly.
of things. And when you first start, especially people who work for themselves, it's so hard, man. This is a whole next conversation. But like when you first start working for yourself, right? You get surprised by, oh, I just got this huge check. And then you don't realize that that huge check isn't necessarily coming in 2 weeks. That there are going to be times when there's downtime that maybe you need to ramp up your efforts. And then there's other downtimes that, like you said, seasonal things where there is nothing for you to do. You just have to know that this is your how much you make over the year. And those lean times, you have to have some plan for it, whether you have other work that you do or whether you just budget it so that that amount is enough to carry you on through. And whew, that is a hard first lesson for when people start working for themselves.
It is.
And so Dialect, we're actually going to have a session where we're talking to entertainers, people who work in hospitality, the hotels, to really talk about, you know, some of the tips and tools and some of the techniques, money wise, that people that work seasonally can put to work, you know, that they can implement to really ensure that they have a less stressful way of life when it comes to money.
So we could be in control. You know, one
Absolutely.
of the things in these places, we were just talking about how like the influencers will take the job because, you know, they need the money. It's the same thing for all of us, right? We've taken gigs. As a musician, as a performer, I've taken jobs that were not within my values because I was like, I can't afford to say no.
Right.
And I want everybody to be at a place where you can afford to say no to the things that you don't value. I know everyone who does tourism has had obnoxious, terrible guests that they wish that they could have fired. You know, you ever heard about people firing clients? When I first heard that term, I was like, oh, that's beautiful. You could do that? You could fire a client? And I want seasonal workers to be able to be at a place where they don't have to take on a contract with some predator, with somebody who is taken from them or taken from the island or making them feel terrible because we got our stuff together and we could say no because regardless of what work you do, you can be in control of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And then the last thing I want to talk about, we didn't get into it as much as I would have liked, but we'll have a lot more shows where we can build out some of these topics. I remember us having a guest who said, we were just amazed at some of the things that he was able to do and some of the risks that he took. And he said to us, he came from a family where his mother was a dressmaker and the father was an electrician. He came from a family where both parents were self-employed.
Yeah.
So when it comes to taking risks and understanding some of the basics of running a business, I was amazed at some of the things he was telling us that he did and things that piqued his interest as a youngster.
Was he our first guest? I think he was our first guest, right?
No, not that one. The one
okay.
the filmmaker.
Ah, okay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But it occurred to me, our parents were civil servants. They were salaried.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
They were salaried, so they were low risk. They were about working hard, getting that pension, even though, you know, my father eventually took some big risks.
He took some risks.
Generally,
yeah.
Right? He took
That's
big
where
risks.
they came from.
Yeah, but I know it is, right? That's the push and pull of it, right? You have these desires to make these things, but the systems and the things that they have in place make it so that you don't feel like you have options. This generation going through it all now with all of this student loan mess. Oh, we got this money. You know, people told us that if we came up to the States and went to college, that we were going to have all this money and come home and be rich and all this kind of stuff and be able to do more. And I think every generation has this thing that like this perceived safety that is often done by predators that we're then trying to make up for.
Absolutely. Yep. So, and again, like I said, a lot of even your tolerance for risk, that is shaped by your household and the stories and the messaging and the examples you had from your parents and those around you. So, there's some people who just are good at starting businesses and they do well, versus some of us, it's a risk. We have to learn as we go. We have to falter. We have to, we have to
Mhm.
flex and flourish, so to speak. So that's
even
another
after you
topic that we will be
start,
focusing on.
Oh yeah, we could talk so much about it. Go ahead, Megan.
and even after you start a business, it's the keeping the business
And the
going.
Oh,
consistency,
Another level of
absolutely.
risk right there. So it's a
Absolutely.
lot to unpack. It's a lot to
Yeah.
unpack.
Even having this show every week,
Yeah.
you can't think about it 5 minutes before you start the show. Some work has to
Mhm.
go into it. What are we going to talk about? What are we going to be doing next month?
Guests.
How will we measuring success? If we're doing this show every week and no one is watching, well, what do we do next?
Mhm.
How do we alter things?
Yeah.
So
we talk about like Black community stuff that we have not been taught. We have not been taught about the power of the pivot, right? This is like
Power of
the
the pivots.
Power
I
of the
like
the,
pivot.
the
that.
big business term is like, because they
Yes.
love talking about that thing, about
Mhm.
how we started a thing and it didn't work out and we pivoted instead of just sticking to the thing that we
Right.
know.
Or giving up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Power of
Well, because we like we said, we don't have that kind of room to be
Yeah.
like, oh, I can take this risk. I can try to pivot, because if the
Mhm.
pivot, what the pivot, you'll hear these CEOs of some of these businesses talk about, we pivoted 6 times over 7 years, and we didn't make any money till year 9.
Wow.
Yeah,
But
but
when
I
you
listen to
don't-
Shark Tank and I hear some of the stories. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
But
you need support for that.
Yeah, but we are out of time. An
We
hour goes by so
over
quickly.
So fast,
We are
so fast.
over time.
I know, and you're bringing up all these good interesting things I want to talk about.
Yeah. So Megan, can you throw up the flyer for next week just to remind people about next week's event at the Right Room?
All righty.
And then we also, here we go, and that's Humroy, handsome young man with a good head on his shoulders. And so we'll be taking over the Right Room, and make sure you let the younger folks know that it's going to be an interesting discussion. It's a good mixer where we'll talk about financial topics and also talk about dialect. Will pop in to give us some guidance on getting your money jam going.
I want a wellness pan. Where can I get a wellness pan? That's so great.
Ah.
Yeah,
Oh,
I love it.
Have to arrange a wellness
That is
time.
only conceptual dialect.
I'm just like, wow, that's so ill. I love that.
A wellness pan.
Yeah. We did
have to build
some
those.
training
Probably
with a
try and
client.
get one. Even a
Yeah, but
little
that would be cool if we could get one created. Yeah.
Yeah, let's build some wellness pans. I dig that.
Well,
Yeah.
we had to impress you. You're bringing the music. We can only bring the symbolism as best we
Yes.
can.
Yeah.
Make
Hey,
it
well, no,
local.
we do it all together. Bring it together.
Yeah.
It's this beautiful thing. We all-
Fantastic. Well, if there are any final questions or comments, we'll take those and then we'll sign off.
Just a comment saying great show from
Thank you,
Dorothea Black
Dorothea.
and Brown. Hi,
Thank you so much.
Dorothea.
Hi, Dorothea. Well, great. So we want to thank everyone for joining us. It's always great talking to your dialect. I learned so much. We look forward. We know that you are on the mend, but we definitely, as you get better, we're going to try to have more shows. But we want to have you on all of the radio stations in Antigua.
Let's jam, let's party, and y'all know when I come down, everybody who listening and watching, I will be like, every breath and waking moment that we got will be spent jamming on this money stuff, on this art stuff, so we can all do it together. Thank you again.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. So to everyone, again, you can, if you missed any part of this discussion, feel free to go to YouTube. We're streaming there. You can go to YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe so that you always get the notification whenever we go live. And again, next Wednesday will be a live show from the Right Room in Fitch's Creek. We're inviting people of all ages, of course. Make it a nice after work, happy hour kind of thing. Support H. Wright and support the youth. We're going to be taking over his bar and having some great discussions. And of course, I hope you learned a bit more about money and your connection to money based on our discussion today. And this will be an ongoing discussion with dialect. And we, of course, will begin to roll out some of our programs that we will be featuring at the YOLO Summit coming in September, the 22nd and 23rd. The venue has not been finalized. We have 2 venues that we probably will be using for different events, but we will have that finalized by next week so that we can let you know where these events will be. In the meantime, people are already registering. If you go to our website, there's a pop-up that tells you pre-register here. And people are actually hearing about it and are registering. We had our first couple of registrations between yesterday and today. So if you know young people in your circles who could really benefit from this, I think all young people should take advantage of it. It is FREE, and it's going to be a life-changing experience for these young people. So Dialect and Megan, let me give you a chance to say your final goodbyes, and then we'll sign out.
Peace and bless. Let's link soon, y'all.
See, I wish I could do something like that.
I wish. I wouldn't even embarrass myself.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah, I'm gonna practice. I'm gonna give it a go.
Definitely.
Don't worry. Soon come. We gonna have y'all doing some soon.
I take my little notes, So I have to follow up the pivots.
I am too. I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is.
That in somewhere. Have my little jam.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just want to thank you so much, Dialect, for being with us today. It was a pleasure as always.
As always, thank you so much.
And we're looking forward to having you here.
Yes, and we'll see y'all soon.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Fantastic. Well, folks, it's been another great edition. We'll see you back next week. Again, look out for our newsletter. If you're not on our mailing list, you really need to just send us an email, info@samuelfieldsconsulting.com. It's a continuation of the topics that we discuss every week, and you get some real tips that you can share and put to use and improve your financial literacy and your financial knowledge. So it's over and out from here at Likkle Byte Ideas, and we'll see you back next week. Thanks for joining us. Bye.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye, everyone.